This is where I like to come to talk about solved and unsolved true crime cases and true crime facts and stats, missing person cases that I don't feel have gotten enough attention from mainstream media. If you're interested in everything true crime related, you've most definitely come to the right place. I do hope that you will choose to subscribe to this channel, and if you hit that little bell next to the subscribe button, YouTube will notify you whenever I upload new content. Welcome to Talking Crime. This channel is not intended for children. This channel is also not intended for those who are easily offended and easily triggered. I talk about true crime here, and as such, the stories that I tell, the pictures that I show, and the language I generally tend to use are going to be graphic in nature, so viewers' discretion is most definitely advised. In the heart of Jackson, Mississippi, behind the Hinds County Detention Center, lies a field that should never have existed. A place where it's said that 214 secrets were buried, though I believe the number's closer to 700. A place where justice was not just denied, but buried 6 feet deep. A place that some wanted to stay a secret, but you know the saying, what happens in the dark will always come to light. In early 2024, the world was briefly told about the discovery of 214 bodies that had been buried behind the Hinds County Jail. There was barely any news coverage at all, so I wouldn't be shocked if most people had never heard of this makeshift graveyard. No headstones, no names, just metal rods with numbers on them, and silence. This isn't fiction. This isn't a fake story that I doubt even the likes of Stephen King could make up. This isn't some ancient burial ground recently unearthed. This isn't a chapter for the history books. This is affecting families and communities right now. So let me introduce you to just a few of them. Dexter Wake. He was 37 years old. He was a father. He was a son. He was a man with dreams. He was a man with demons, like so many of us. I think we all have our shit. He had 2 beautiful daughters that he absolutely adored. So even though he had his bouts with addiction, he was doing the best that he could to straighten out his life so that he could be the best dad for his girls that he could be. He had moved back in with his mom for a little bit just to get that extra support system, and he was doing pretty well. On March 5th, he left the house to cool off following a minor argument with his mom. You know, as a mother, I know little arguments happen all the time. Nothing to trip about. Calm down, go to your neutral corners. Later, it's like this shit never happened, you know? He said he'd be back in a little bit. He was going to take a walk to the store. And when he didn't come home that night, his mom wasn't super worried. She probably figured he decided to stay at a friend's for the night. I mean, he's 37, you know? But then the next day, he didn't come home either. And he didn't come home the next day after that either. Moms know. They just do. She knew something wasn't right, so she called around. She asked his friends if they had seen him. When they hadn't, she took to social media. At first, her posts simply asked friends and family to keep an eye out, let her know if they happened to see her son. Over the course of a few days, though, her posts got more worried sounding, more frantic. She would beg her son's friends, if you know anything, I'm not asking you to snitch, don't tell me where he's at, just let me know he's okay. She begged her son, just send word. If you don't want to talk to me, I get it. Send word that you're okay. Your daughters miss you. They're worried too. We love you. Come home, or at least send word. She would post pictures of him with his daughters. She never let a day go by where she wasn't posting his face out there so people would remember to keep their eyes open for him. By March 14th, she decided it was time. She needed to go and file a missing persons report. So she headed over to the Hinds County Police Department to file that report. And this was not an easy thing for her to do. She already had some serious trust issues when it came to the local police, and for good reason. Her brother was arrested not that long before this event happened. According to police, he resisted arrest, he was slammed to the ground, and he sustained serious injuries to his head. He was in a coma for days before he finally passed away because of those injuries that he sustained dealing with those cops. With only the word of the officers on the scene and no way for her brother to say otherwise, this was an open and shut case. Just another black man that died as a result of not following the cops' orders, right? No news there. Or so they say. Meanwhile, his family was left to pick up these pieces. And that was still heavy on her mind. She had to walk into that same police department, those same officers working there, and had to put what little hope and trust that she had left into their hands. Because she was desperate. She wanted to find her son. She couldn't just sit idly by, though, and trust that they had it under control. She was online. She took to the streets. She actively searched for her son, Dexter. She put up hundreds of flyers. She talked to anybody who would listen. No luck. She was in contact with the police pretty much every day, checking to see if there was any news. She didn't want to let them forget about her son's case. Can't let that shit go cold. You got to keep pestering them. And keep reminding them to do their damn jobs. 5 months. It was like this for 5 agonizing months before she finally heard what happened to her son. And the news was heartbreaking. But the anger and the need to do right by her son, by getting him the dignity and justice he deserved, did not allow her the time to grieve that she should have been allowed. Her son was dead. And fucked up as it sounds, that wasn't even the worst part. You would think it would have been a police or a chaplain that would have notified her of her son's passing, but no. It was a reporter that felt that she had the right to know what happened to her kid. So when she answered the phone call, she was given the tip to look behind the jail. That's right, behind the jail. That same one next to the police department that she was in contact with daily. The same one whose officers kept saying they had no new info, no leads, no idea where her son was. Thing is, they did know. Shit, they're the ones who put him there. Let that sink in. According to their accounts, later, Dexter Wade was jaywalking across the highway on March 5th, about an hour after walking out of his mother's front door for the last time, when an off-duty officer driving a police-issued SUV patrol vehicle accidentally struck and killed her son. In his pockets, he had a wallet with identification, a credit card, an insurance card, a prescription bottle, all with his name and information on it, mind you. Yet the paperwork merely listed him as a number. No name, no next of kin identified, no official reports, no headlines in the paper, no effort whatsoever to do the right thing. She last saw him March 5th, and she found out on August 24th that he had been buried in a pauper's grave, a pauper's field. Paupers meaning for poor people, for the unidentified, for the unknown, with nothing more than a metal marker, the number 672 on it. She was finally able to arrange an appointment to exhume his body so that she could give him the proper funeral that he deserved. She arrived early that morning, only to find out that the officials had already dug him up hours earlier without her presence. She said, quote, "They put him in the ground without my permission. They dug him up without my permission," as she was standing by the empty gravesite. Dexter's life was complicated. He struggled with bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. He had a criminal record. But he was also a father to 2 daughters. He was a son. And he was known in his neighborhood for handing out homemade ice pops to the kids and helping the homeless. This is not about his lifestyle. It's about how his life ended. And the story is not just about one man. It's about a system that failed him in life and then tried to erase him. A system that's supposed to protect and serve and did neither for him or his family. Mario Terrell Moore, age 40. He was beaten to death. His body sat in Hinds County morgue for months. His family had no idea. They only learned his fate when his name appeared on a list of undisclosed homicides published by NBC News. His sister, Mary Glenn, and her daughters were absolutely devastated. Mario was buried in the same pauper's field as Dexter Wade, without notification, without any ceremony, without any dignity. The coroner's office had identified him. They had next of kin information, but Jackson Police Department never contacted his family. No one knocked on their door, no one called, and no one cared. He was maybe homeless, was more of a drifter. He had a lifestyle that he knew his family would worry about him. He knew his family didn't approve, and he didn't want to worry them. So he pretty much stayed out on his own, doing his own thing, drugs and what have you. But he always showed up for holidays, and when they ran into him on the street, they spoke for a little bit. Everything was cordial. It wasn't hard feelings. They just worried about him, and he didn't want them to have to worry. So he lived his life the way he wanted to live his life, and on his own terms. And because of that, they didn't know he was missing. They expected they'd see him for Thanksgiving. They had no idea anything was wrong. To find out because somebody in the family sends you a newspaper article that they found that has a list of names of people that were identified as being buried in this pauper's field, and to see your brother's name on that list, and then to have to call your mother and let her know that her son is dead, and not be notified by the police, and not know who did it to him or why, because nobody bothered to investigate, because he was just poor, black, homeless, a drug addict, whatever. It was not high enough on the list of priorities for them to try and figure that shit out. So they found him beaten and dead and wrapped in, I think, a tarp and tossed on the side of the road like trash. He sat in the morgue for months, and then he was placed with no name in the ground. And no family was notified, even though they knew who he was. They knew who his family was. And they just didn't give a fuck. They just didn't care. Jonathan David Hankins, 40 years old. He lived with his mom, Gretchen Hankins. He worked construction in Jackson, Mississippi. He also battled addiction. He always came home, and he always called, and he always kept a job. Always. He left home on May 20th, 2022. 3 days later, he was found dead in a motel. He was found dead in a Motel 6 in a room. The cause of death was cardiopulmonary arrest due to methamphetamine use and fentanyl overdose, which I'm sure he probably didn't even realize the fentanyl was in there. His mother did not learn of his death until December 4th. December 4th, 2023. Yeah. 19 months later. No word from anybody about him being found. No notification whatsoever. He left behind a 17-year-old daughter. Her name is Brooke, or is Brooke, who still doesn't understand why her dad disappeared at all. Gretchen had filed a missing persons report. She got no notification. She searched. She waited. Like I said, 19 months. She was met with nothing but silence and questions and worry. 19 months. I can't. I can't. And that whole time, he was buried behind the jail in that pauper's field. No one told her. No one gave her the chance to say goodbye. No dignity, no respect, no name. It's a field of forgotten souls is what they were hoping for. But see, these aren't forgotten people. These are loved ones. These are somebody's loved ones. The paupers field behind Hinds County Detention Center is not just a cemetery. It's a symbol. It's a symbol of systemic neglect. It's a place where the poor are marginalized, the mentally ill, the incarcerated are buried without ceremony, without family being told, and often without consent or knowledge of anybody. Inmates dig the graves, so nobody knows about it. Bodies are placed in shallow plots, side by side by side by side, with little metal rods sticking out of the ground that mark the location, but no names, just numbers to mark it, and really bad paperwork. They don't even get to keep their names, even when their names aren't known. NBC News published a list of the 214 people that were identified as of the last report that I could find. They were buried there from 2016 to 2023. Most had families actively searching for them. Some were identified right away. Some weren't. Some were buried even though their next of kin were known and reachable. Others were buried without even taking the time to find out. I mean, Dexter Wade's mother lived less than 2 miles away from where he was buried, less than a mile away from where he passed away. Now, this isn't just a local failure. It is a national disgrace. It's a pattern of silence. It's a pattern of abuse. It's a pattern of no accountability and no consequences. Abuse of power. The Jackson Police Department and the Hinds County Coroner Office continue to point fingers at one another, each blaming the other for the failure instead of taking accountability for their own actions. Each claim it's the other one's duty to notify. Nobody being held accountable. The feds are watching from a distance, but they think that the local authorities need to take care of their own. And basically, they just need to come up with better policies for notifications. The Jackson Police Department and Hinds County Coroner's Office continue to point fingers at each other. Each claims the other failed to notify the families. Womp, womp, womp. Nobody taking accountability. What the fuck else is new? Meanwhile, mothers like Betterston Wade and Gretchen Hankins are left with the trauma that no apology can erase. Civil rights attorney Ben Crump has called for a federal investigation. He says what happened to Dexter Wade and so many others is not just negligence. It's a fucking cover-up. He's not alone. He's not alone. I agree completely. And the fact that the feds are just going to sit back and watch and let the locals take care of it, I think they showed how well they can take care of it already. Don't you think? I think people need to be held accountable. I think that this is unacceptable, to say the least, and something needs to be done. The story's not over. Lawsuits are mounting. Families are demanding answers. The FBI is monitoring the situation from the distance, but nobody has taken full responsibility. And the question remains, how many more are buried out in that field? They're saying 215 to 14, but he was number 679. So I'm going to say it's probably even more than that. How many names are still just numbers? How many families are still searching? How many of these fields are there? And when will there be justice, accountability, fairness? Fairness as far as not only just rich people or white people or what people term to be important people are going to get this justice. When are people going to be treated with common human decency? The living and the dead deserve that. And it's never going to change if we don't change it. That's why I'm here today. And hopefully that's why you're still here listening to me. And maybe somewhere down the line, something's got to fucking give. That's all I got to say about that. Something's got to fucking give. My heart goes out to the families. And I hope they are paid generously, although no amount of money is worth what they've been through. I can't imagine. Thank you for sitting here and listening to me today. And if you've made it this far, I hope you will hit the like button. It helps more than you know. And I see you soon. Till then, you gotta stay safe out there.